finding a seat. Finding a position that we can feel comfortable with the vertical spine. Letting the hands find a resting place. Letting the eyes close if that feels comfortable for you. So there's this young woman in India who is in the process of breaking her father's heart. Father's this prominent, well-known Ayurvedic doctor. And she is informing him that she is not going to pursue becoming a doctor. She's not going to pursue his second choice of becoming an engineer. She's going to become a chemist. And he is in the process of trying to talk her out of this. Feel the inflow of air as you inhale. Feel not only how that feels within the lungs, how that feels within the nostrils. And the same way as you exhale, feel the airflow leaving your body, your lungs emptying. Feel what goes on in the chest cavity. Give ourselves just 15 more seconds here just to settle in. When it feels appropriate for you, we'll let the eyes open if they are closed. And let's extend both arms straight out in front of us, palms down. Think about keeping that humeral head integrated, so maybe a little bit of subscapular retraction. And with an exhale, just roll the palms up. Try to get enough rotation so that the thumbs can point directly away from one another. And with an inhale, the palms roll back to down. Exhale, turn the palms up. And inhale, palms down. And let's just do that 2 more times, just really paying attention to the integration at the humeral head. And when you're complete, releasing your hands down to your thighs, palms up or down, whatever feels most comfortable for you. With an exhale, let's turn our chin over towards the left. Maintain that neutral integration across the shoulder girdle. And we'll inhale back to neutral. And exhale over towards the right. Neutral shoulder girdle. And when you feel balanced, inhaling back to neutral. Kick the palms straight out once again. Palms down, fingers straight out. And then let's exhale and roll the palms so that they face up. Make sure you're still integrated at that humeral head. And with your next exhale, let's turn the chin towards the left. And we'll inhale back to neutral and to the right. Inhaling back to neutral, releasing the arms. Drop the chin to the sternum. And turn your palms down if they're not already. And then take your elbows and point them out towards the edges of the room. And as the elbows come out towards the edges of the room, think about continuing to allow the chin to fall to the sternum. And feel the back bowing into that flexion shape. And then inhale, squeeze the elbows in towards the rib cage, lift the chin. Exhale, elbows go out, chin tucks, back rounds. Inhale, chin lifts, elbows squeeze in. Belly works forward. One more time, exhale. Chin falls, elbows out. Big rounded upper and mid back. And inhale, elbows squeeze in, chin lifts. Last time. And we'll relax back to neutral. Just settle in there. Let's transition our way to hands and knees tabletop. And from hands and knees tabletop, just splay the fingers out as wide as you can get them. Get the toes to connect into the mat. Think about the strength and stability of that shape. Maintain a nice neutral anterior posterior torso alignment. And let's keep that as we curl our toes and lift our seat into a little down dog. Really driving length into the hips here. And then we'll come down to hands and knees tabletop and extend our legs straight out in front of us. So we find our way to staff. And from staff, let's take a brief little forward fold. Just getting into a fold that allows your body to relax. Remember, the knees can be can be as bent as is beneficial for you. And then we are going to walk our way back up into staff and lower our spine down onto the mat. As we find our way to this neutrality pretty early in class to feel this, considering we didn't start here. Today's practice is going to be kind of a unique sequence that we're going to cycle through. So we'll be back here a few more times. As you settle in here, think about where the points of contact that are most emphasized in your body are. So our weight isn't going to sit perfectly balanced at each point of contact. Got where those points of contact are, depending on the kind of extension, flexion, the natural extension, flexion of our spine. You may feel this middle to back. You may feel this in the lumbar. You may feel this in the thoracic spine. Many of us are going to feel this on the edges of the ilium and the scapula. But just think about where you're most connected here. And then start to bring some focus to the back of your head. And we're going to press the back of our head into the mat, maybe like 5%, maybe a little bit more, but not to the point where we're forcing a lot of neck strength, but we have a really nice firm connection. And then release your hands down by your side, palms up. Get that little bit of rotation to the thumb side of your hands, so a little bit of external rotation through the shoulders. And bend the knees if they're not already, so that the feet can connect to the mat. And then let's push down into the toe mounds and heels with some equivalent pressure and lift our belt line into a nice little bridge. And as you get to your bridge, we're looking for a relatively neutral torso. Engage the glutes, kind of an equivalent amount to the pressure you have in your head. So it's not a ton, maybe 5 to 7%, but there's enough activity there that you're maintaining some stability. And then think about lengthening your neck so that the crown of the head is pushing towards that space behind you. The chin is relatively neutral. It's not tucked down to the sternum for sure. Anything, maybe there's a slight lift to the chin, The chin positioning really is dependent on what makes you feel like you're getting the most length out of your neck. I will hold this for just 15 more seconds. Think about that glute engagement. And when it feels appropriate for you, releasing the tailbone back down to the mat, pull the thighs in towards the torso, give yourself a nice little squeeze. And then feet come back down to the mat. Let the knees roll to one side or the other, whatever side feels most appropriate. And we'll press ourselves back up into hands and knees tabletop. Once again, splaying the fingers out, connecting the toes to the mat and thinking about that strength. When it feels appropriate, lift the seat and roll your weight back in a down dog. Let the hips shift and energize back. Think about the belt line just extending upward towards that space behind you. Let's just breathe here for just one moment. Maybe you pedal the calves out a little bit. And then when it feels appropriate, we'll walk our way forward to the front of the mat. And inhale into half lift. Good, flat, long, neutral spine. Before you exhale and release your way back into fold. Melt your way back into your fold here. And then drift your awareness to your sacrum, and let's roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae. Eventually finding our way into mountain and just feeling the balanced weight distribution. Think about kind of synchronization of pressure points in this bipedal stance. Toe mounds and heels holding equivalent or equal amounts of weight. Think about the quad flex and the glute flex and how you can get more vertical. And then let's inhale and bring our hands together at heart center. And we'll slide the left foot straight back into lunge. And as we land in lunge, just make sure your torso is nice and vertical. Think about the hips shifting back towards that anterior hip crease on the right side. And give some pressure and some strength into that left quad and left heel. Let's inhale and sweep the arms up and overhead. Fully express crescent. And then we'll drop the hands to heart center and return to the front of the mat. Reestablishing our balance. And then once you feel that equivalent weight distribution, let's take our right foot and slide it straight back. As we step back here, we're just thinking about the position setting. Think about that anterior hip crease on the left side, the right quad and the right heel getting energized. Inhale and sweep the arms to crescent. We'll drop the hands and return to the front of the mat. Inhale, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale through forward fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Plant your hands. We'll walk our way back into down dog. Enough time here to think about the anterior hip crease, to think about that lift and that expansiveness. And let's come down to hands and knees. Tabletop, we'll extend our legs straight back in front of us. And as the legs extend, just follow them forward into fold. Remember, the knees can bend as much as is beneficial for your practice. As you're going through your respiration cycles, pay attention to where the sternum is sitting in comparison to the thighs. And think about getting those 2 points of your body closer and closer with each exhale cycle of your breath. So this young woman has made her decision. She's not going to medical school. She's not going to follow in her father's footsteps. And she is going to school to become a chemist. She excels in her schooling, constantly catching the attention for her creative solutions to problems by her professors. Give ourselves just 15 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate for you, we'll walk our way back up into staff. And once again, we're going to lower ourselves onto our back. As you get here, scan once again to those points that are making the most impactful connections. And just note, have those shifted? Have they changed? Are they the exact same as the first time? But feel where those points are. And then just like last time, we're going to bring some awareness to the back of our head. Create maybe that 5 to 7% pressure. Think about the expansiveness of the cervical spine. We'll bend the knees if they're not already bent. We'll let our palms come by our sides, facing towards the ceiling or sky. And we'll lift our way up into a little bridge. So we get into that bridge space. The glutes are going to activate. And then each time we inhale, we're going to think about the sternum just getting a little bit higher. So that we may even start to bring some extension energy into the bridge. I don't often have extension energy in our bridges, but you may start to feel the lumbar arch a little bit, the belly start to lift a little bit. Each inhale, the sternum is getting a little bit higher. Maybe the shoulder blades start to walk underneath you just a little bit more. The neck is still long, and we have that focus on the back of our head so that we're maintaining cervical spine length. And we'll give ourselves just about 15 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate for you, we'll release the tailbone down to the mat and pull the thighs in towards the torso. And then we'll release the feet back down to the mat, let the knees fall to one side or the other, whatever side feels most appropriate. We'll press ourselves back up into hands and knees tabletop. So you get into tabletop, we're once again splaying the fingers out, setting that handprint engagement. Think about where the connection to the finger mound and your mat is most impactful. Think about how the index finger prints are actively pressing into the mat and the pinky prints are actively pressing into the mat. Roll your toes, lift your seat, find down dog. And let's walk our way forward into fold. Inhaling into half lift. Exhaling back into fold. Making a determination what's right for you, we will roll or sweep our way up into mountain. Hands coming together at heart center. Just feeling into our balanced posture here. Let's slide our left foot straight back into lunge. Sweep our way into crescent. Think about what's going on in that front quad, what's going on in the back quad, what's going on in the back heel. And then we're going to drop our hands to heart center. And we're going to step the left foot halfway forward so that we can ground the left heel. So we maybe have like somewhere between 8 and 24 inches between the back and front foot, just depending on our own leg geometry and what feels right in the hamstrings. And then slide back into the right hamstring until you feel that right leg activate. And just keeping your hands at heart center here. Let's start a little quarter tilt forward. So we just take the weight forward. As the weight goes forward, note how the right hip wants to push out to transfer that weight burden. Keep that right hip tucked behind you. And all we're doing is a quarter tilt forward. And then we'll rise back into a vertical torso alignment. Splay the toes out on the right foot so you have a little bit more activation there. Really think about that front foot as providing as much strength as the back leg, even though it feels like the weight is wanting to push back. Try to keep your weight balanced between the two legs. And let's take a half fold. So we get the torso here so that the sternum is pointing roughly straight down, hands staying at heart center. Make sure that right hip isn't tucking out to the right. You're hugging that behind you. And we have activation on that front foot. And then we'll lift our way back up into a vertical spine, and we'll step the left foot forward. And as we come back into this mountain now, we may have some bilateral imbalance. You may feel that the weight is kind of all tilting over to the right. Think about using the abdominal activation to bring our body back into a little bit more balance. Once you get balanced weight distribution, let's send the right foot straight back into lunge. And we'll sweep the arms into crescent. As the arms come into crescent here, check your anterior hip crease, check your back quad, check what's going on in that front quad. Think about that back heel. And then we'll drop the hands to heart center. And we're going to step halfway forward so that we can ground that right heel. And you just have a roughly equivalent distance between side one and side two, depending on where we can get the legs to feel like they can both be active. Hands at heart center, we're going to take a little quarter tilt. Once again, likely that the weight wants to dump out to that left hip. Keep that tucked behind you. Think about the activation on the front foot. And then we'll bring our torso back up to vertical and position the torso and the weight distribution so that both feet are actively engaged in standing here. Splay the toes out on the left foot, and let's take a half fold. Torso points roughly straight down here. The lumbar spine should feel like it is expansive here. And then we'll rise back up and we'll step the right foot forward to mountain. Inhale, sweep the arms up and overhead. And exhale, sweep the hands behind you. Squeeze the scapula back. Push the thumbs down. And flex the quads and glutes an equivalent amount. So we have a really strong base. And then give the elbows a little squeeze backwards. Sweep the arms up and overhead with an inhale. Exhale into forward fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Plant your hands. We'll walk our way back into down dog. Once again, think about the elevation of the hips, the anterior hip crease hugging up. Come down to hands and knees, tabletop. And we'll extend the legs straight out in front of us. And just follow that into a fold. But the faces underneath still play the same game. Raise your glass, raise your side, shake their hands, toe the line
It's the same old parade, different name on the drum, same old song, just a different one sung. I've been down this road.
Give ourselves about 50 more seconds here.
Same old parade, just a line of new friends. They paint the house, but the roof still leaks. Change the crown, but the kingdom speaks. They light the fire, then they watch it burn. Call it progress while the wheels still turn. Raise your glass, raise your side.
When it feels appropriate, we'll bring our spine back to vertical
Toe the line,
and lower ourselves onto our spine.
it's the same old parade, different name on the drum, same old song, just a different one sung.
Think about those points of pressure.
Down this road, I know how it ends.
Add some pressure to the back of the head, palms to your sides.
They'll tell you it's new.
When it feels appropriate, lift the hips.
But the ink's the same, only change the chart.
With each inhale, think about your sternum getting higher.
And the march goes on.
We'll give ourselves just 15 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate, release your seat and thighs to torso. And we'll release our feet to the mat. Let the knees fall to one side or the other, and we'll make our way to hands and knees tabletop. Splay your fingers out wide here. Curl your toes. Lift your seat, find down dog.
Same old parade.
And we'll walk our way forward into fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale into fold. Determine whether it'd be ideal to sweep or roll your way up into mountain. And we'll bring our hands together, heart center. Take a half step back with the left foot. Round the left heel. Flex into that right quad. Take the hands to the hips. 4 fingers in front, thumbs wrapping around that hip girdle. And with an exhale, half fold. Right hip stays tucked behind you. Lumbar is expansive. Inhale, low vertical spine. Bring your hands together, heart center. Splay the toes out on the right foot and exhale into half fold. Inhale to a vertical spine. Take the thumbs to the forehead. Exhale to half fold. Expansive lumbar spine. Inhale to a vertical spine. Keep the palms together and extend the arms straight overhead. Exhale to half fold. Inhale to a vertical spine. Drop the hands to heart center. Step the left foot back into lunge. Ground the left heel and roll to warrior two. Should have a lot of room in that right hamstring. Make sure you're using it with the right quad. Slide back into the right hamstring. We're just going to drop into a real quick little triangle.
Turn it down till the whispers quiet. Burn it down.
Left oblique pulls us back up into two, bend that front knee. Left heel spins up crescent. Drop the hands to heart center and step to the front of the mat. When it feels appropriate, half step back with your right foot. Ground that right heel. Flex into your left quad. Think about the base position and drop the hands to the hips. 4 fingers in front, thumbs behind you. Exhale to half lift. Half fold. Inhale to vertical spine. Bring your hands to heart center. Exhale to half fold. Long vertical spine. Inhale to vertical spine. Bring your thumbs to your forehead. Exhale to half fold. Long lumbar spine. Inhale to vertical spine. Sweep the arms overhead, palms together. Exhale to half fold. Long lumbar spine. Inhale to vertical spine. Drop the hands to heart center. Step the right foot back to lunge. Ground the right heel, roll to 2. Same thing, we should have some nice room on that left hamstring. Think about using that to get the quad into the shape. Slide back into your left hamstring. Now we'll drop to a real brief little triangle. When it feels appropriate, right oblique draws us back up into 2, bend that front knee. Right heel spins upward into crescent. Drop the hands and return to the front of the mat. Nice work. Think about how the quads feel, how the glutes feel here, how the legs feel. Do you have a spaciousness in the lower body? Inhale, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale and slide the hands behind you. Think about the scapula rolling back, the thumbs pushing down, the elbows squeezing behind you. Engage the glutes and the quads. Feel stability in that spaciousness of the legs. Inhale and sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Plant your hands. We'll walk our way back into down dog. Try to feel the extra space you have available to you in down dog. Think about the energy on the posterior chain of lower legs from that high calf insertion down. Think about what's going on in the anterior hip crease of the hips. And let's drop the hands and knees tabletop. And we'll flip the top of the feet and sink our way into child's pose. So this woman has excelled in her college degree, and she's connected with these professors, and they've encouraged her to get a PhD, and she gets this PhD in chemistry. And her professors just love her work and love working with her, and they recommend her to every giant chemical company in the country. And there's more or less a bidding war to hire her. She picks a job, she picks the right job, she loves her job. And she's put in this tiny little team, and they're given this really complex project that this chemical company has been trying to crack for about a decade. They're trying to strengthen the bond, this molecular bond on the exterior of car paint. When it feels appropriate, let's pull our way forward to hands and knees tabletop, and we'll extend our legs straight out in front of us. And as the legs extend out in front of you, just follow them forward into fold. Think about where in the posterior chain you're experiencing expansion here. If we're still kind of bunched up in the hamstrings, make sure you bend your knees so that we can get a little bit more expansiveness in the back. And so it's her research that ends up cracking the secret to this project. And the company ends up with this massive contract for this chemical that they've created with all of the major car companies. And within her first year of working at this company, she's made this massive impact that everyone knows about. And so it doesn't take long before she's no longer working on a small team. She's supervising a small team, and they're being given these impossible tasks, these projects that have just kind of been pushed away and thought of as impossible within the company. And they keep figuring these things out with her leadership. And so after a couple years of leading a small team, she's elevated in her position, and she's overseeing a couple small teams. Last 30 seconds here. Remember that your exhale is this opportunity for bringing the torso and the thighs closer together, for expanding the depth of the shape. When it feels appropriate, we'll walk our spine back to vertical, and then we're going to release. Actually, before we release, let's set up our props. So we're going to have our ball and our blanket or towel just going to be our taco shape. So ball's going in the middle of a shelf folded towel or blanket, folding that in half, and we'll just set that to the side. That'll be for the deck a little bit later. And then we're headed onto our backs. as you come back into this prone position, as you come back into this supine position. Check in with those points of contact once again. See if they've shifted, if they've become more intense, if they've become less intense. Just feel that within your body. And then let's release our palms to our sides by our hips, palms up. Inhale the knees into a bent position if they're not already there. Add some pressure to the back of the head. Think about lengthening the cervical spine, and we'll lift our belt line up into bridge. Each inhale lifts the sternum just a little bit higher. The shoulder blades can tuck underneath you. Glutes are engaged in a way that is compensatory of the amount of pressure you have in the back of the head. We're creating this really structurally sound shape. At the same time, it's continually expanding with our inhale breath. And then when it feels appropriate for you, release the tailbone down to the mat. The arms come out to cactus or T, and let's start a little dynamic sway with the knees. Exploring the lumbar space. And so now that she's overseeing these couple of teams, she has the ability to kind of dip in and out of projects. And she's really enjoying this opportunity to kind of reset her brain on a project and then figure out what she can and then move to another project and figure out what she can. And the camaraderie of all the team members is really good and strong. And it's just breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough with these groups. The next time that the knees fall to the left, let's let them pause there for a moment. Won't be a super long hold here, but really think about how the length that we've attempted to establish in the lumbar is sitting here in this twisted shape. And so after a couple of years of these small teams, just breakthrough, 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 she's promoted again and she's put in charge of this whole giant division of this company. And it's at this point where her career really starts to change pretty dramatically. She becomes less involved in the day-to-day chemistry, and she becomes more involved in the day-to-day meetings and politics, inter-office politics. Last 30 seconds here on this first side. But she still finds time when really important special projects come up in her division that she immerses herself in the chemistry. And that's really where she exceeds and excels and makes the biggest impact. When it feels appropriate, let's bring our knees back to neutral. And then we'll exhale the knees over to the second side, the right side. And so her division is really, really important and really, really impactful to the company. And she's about 15 years into her career, and she's advanced incredibly swiftly. And she's called into this huge meeting with the entirety of the board. And she's told that the CEO is stepping down and that she's being nominated as the next CEO of the company. She excitedly accepts this role, and the board is thrilled to have her. And she gets to work now leading this massive chemical company. Last 15 seconds here on the second side. When it feels appropriate, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. And we're going to take our blanket and ball prop and we're going to slide that underneath the cervical spine. Where the ball sits is really up to you. You have that high cervical spine at the base of the skull, the middle of the cervical spine, kind of the apex of the extension, or that lower position at the base of the cervical spine itself. All of them have their own unique benefits, all of them have their own unique impacts, but choose the one that's the most impactful for you tonight. The legs can be anywhere that feels comfortable. They can be extended. The bottoms of the feet can be together. The knees can be together. Anything that feels right for you. Knees can be bent. And so in this new role as CEO, she really isn't involved in the chemistry the way she always has been. She's involved in making recommendations about shareholder distributions and working hand in hand with the CFO, and she's pulled into board meetings, and she loves the challenge, but she finds it remarkably stressful. And her health starts to deteriorate because of it. She starts going to doctor appointments pretty frequently, various doctors all around the city. And she keeps getting different prescription and prescription and prescription. She's trying to find the right chemical compound that can kind of fix these ailments she's found herself with. But no one seems to be able to write her the right prescription. And worse, stepping away from the office to go to all of these appointments all over town is actually creating more stress and anxiety in her life because it's pulling her away from the office and she's missing important things, and it's just beginning to become overwhelming. Give ourselves about 60 more seconds here. And so she decides she's going to take a vacation, kind of a medical vacation, to go see the one doctor who she knows will have the answer, the one doctor who always has the answer, her father. And so she books her time off, jumps on a flight back to India. See her dad, the Ayurvedic doctor. When it feels appropriate for you, we'll pull that prop out from underneath our head or neck and release ourselves down to the mat. Ask yourself if there are any tweaks or adjustments that you could give your body that would be beneficial for you here. Anything that you could offer yourself prior to Shavasana that would be impactful. If there is, offer that. If you're ready for some stillness, if you are ready to find a shape for some ease, then let's find that shape. And so when she meets with her dad, she has this whole huge spreadsheet of every prescription she's been written by every doctor. And not only that, but she has kind of diagrammed out how the prescription chemicals interact with one another and where the overlap is between all of these prescriptions she's been given. And she gives this to her father the first night she gets in, and she just says, I want you to look at this and I want you to tell me what I need to do. And then she's like, I'm really tired. I'm going to go to bed. Let's talk about this in the morning. Just finding your shape of ease here. And so in the morning, she comes down and she sits with her dad at breakfast. And he's just kind of enjoying a cup of tea, reading the paper. And so eventually she's like, Dad, did you look at my sheet? And he's like, Oh, yeah, yeah. I noticed something. He says, I saw a bunch of medications, but I didn't see any meditations on that sheet. And she rolls her eyes and she's like, Dad, this is serious. Like, I flew across the ocean to have this conversation with you. Like, I need your help. I need you to be serious. And he looks at her and he says, I'm very serious. If you want to have this conversation, I need you to do 15 minutes of meditation. And so she says, fine. And he goes to work. And during the day, she sits down and she just is quiet and still for 15 minutes. And for the first time in a long time, she starts to feel a little bit of relief from all this anxiety. Let's start to move our fingers and our toes, start to move our wrists and our ankles, our elbows and our knees, shoulders, hips, neck, head, jaw, eyes, tongue. Eventually, our whole body will move. And we'll utilize that movement to transition our way back into a seat. In our seated space, get our spine nice and tall, let our breath get nice and fluid, let our eyes close. So her dad comes home after work and he says, Did you meditate? And she says, Yes, I did. And you were right. It made me feel better. And he says, you had to come all the way here for that. I thought you were a chemist. She's like, Dad, yeah, I'm a chemist. Why would I know about meditation? I'm not an Ayurvedic doctor. I'm a chemist. He says, Well, then why are you ignoring the chemical factory within your body? With our next inhale, we'll bring our hands together, heart center. Over the course of the next 7 days, can you keep your awareness on the responsibility you have to running one of the most complex chemical manufacturing systems in the universe, your body, and see how that impacts your experience? Thank you so much for being a part of this evening's practice and for being you. Namaste.